to 5. So now we've got some content up there that we can actually scroll up and down and see. We'll actually look at the next part for putting the page in. So it was a really good talk, and I really recommend everyone looks at this talk as good material. This is from this year's WWDC, so the same people that did the previous year's ScrollView talk came up again, Eliza and Josh. Did a really good talk, and they did a really good example about how you do page views. Their sample code was is really good. I think it's probably the best implementation to see how to do paging views with images of different sizes and scale. But it does have some flaws that I've pulled out in the examples I've used. It's almost like the Apple example code seems to have one fundamental flaw in it, so that if you use it in a real app, it bites you in the ass. But other than all that, it's good at showing you how to sort of build the things with their concepts. And the way that they were doing the paging was to actually use scroll views in scroll views. So the architecture is kind of like this. You have a scroll view in the device that you use for paging only, so that's just doing the left and right swipes. And then each page has an extra scroll view in it, and that scroll view handles the zooms. And on those actual individual zooming scroll views sits then an image view, and that's got the actual content. So it's scroll views inside scroll views with an image view in the inner scroll view. And this was something that didn't work at all with the 2.0 SDK, or at least it was very undefined. And it was something that they fixed up in the 3.0 SDK, or at least they said the behaviour is somewhat defined, but it's not really something they could talk about. But that's the architecture they've got in this particular example. So I'll step through the code to that, and we'll see what happens when we start adding a few things like rotations. Okay, so on that original photo views controller, we've got in our view did load, which has added a tap gesture recognizer. And so when we actually get the tap, that'll then call did receive tap method. And then we're just simply pushing directly our new photo slide views controller directly onto the navigation controller. We're not actually caring about which image we tapped on, but we're just tapping on anything on the scroll view and it'll push through. Okay, so the slide view controller itself just is another UI view controller, and this is the page view scroll view. That's the lower level one that's just handling paging only. We've just got a reference here to the photos that we're showing, different pages that we're paging between. There's a reference to the current page, and that's the current page that's sitting close to the actual screen. And then there's something here sort of that you're used to with some of the concepts in table view controllers and annotation views, which is to use cell reuse. So you can imagine we have heaps of photos, and as we start paging across, if we have more and more and more photos, we'll eventually run out of memory. So the concept that gets used here is then to reuse those pages as they go off screen, so that we're reusing the same page and conserving memory. So let's get this one up and running. This is running on the simulator. Okay, so we're inside navigation controller now. We tap through. We'll go to the first image. So we'll see you go scroll into the next one. So I've got basic paging up and running, and this is pretty much that sample application, or parts of that sample application that the Apple guys had. The only difference is they're using CI tile layer under the hood, so if you did pinches, that you could then progressively load in high resolution to the image. So I kind of pulled all that out just to leave it simpler. But we've got paging up and running. The problem is it doesn't rotate. So to get that to rotate, so rotation, we've just got rotation set to, yes, different one. So rotation set to yes, so we'll get this one up and running. see what happens. I'd like to say that this is usually all you should have to do to get the scroll views rotating nicely when they're paged. But let's see, rotate. Okay, so it doesn't quite increase its size. There's also some weird scrolling size. It fixes itself up when you go back. Some interestingness going on there. And if we scroll forward, let's rotate back. It hasn't resized either, and then whoa, jumps and...
You said the auto resizing mask?
Ah, you're jumping ahead. And yeah, it gets a bit confused. So this was pretty much standard scroll view, but the only thing is that we've done is turn on rotation support. So yeah, when this happened the first time I was looking at it, I started sweating. I was like, man, what is this? Like, this is a standard Apple class. It should be working fine. Like, what's wrong? About to give up my career. I'm like, no, don't. And then I thought, oh, let's, get a bit more sensible, have a bit more to think about it, and look at what's going on. The first thing that I really recommend when you have these kinds of problems is stick a bit of debug layout on the thing. So in this particular app, I've got, I'm just seeing the border, the different colours on the different views, because in this app we've got 3 different levels of things. So here you can sort of see the yellow. The yellow's on the outside of the entire bounds of the outer scroll view, and then the red is the inner scroll view, and then the white is actually the image that's sitting on that inner scroll view. Because when you see these things go crazy directions and run around, it's a bit hard to kind of debug and work out which particular scroll view was playing up or which image was playing up. So I definitely recommend that. I definitely recommend that they're different widths, otherwise they'll overlap and you won't see individual ones. So if we rotate around, see here that inner scroll view, the red one, hasn't actually resized. And I reckon that's what's causing it to scroll up beyond the bottom X. Hasn't resized at all. And it doesn't really... So if we go here and then move, it just jumped completely. So I was going to ask everyone, what property do you have to set to make it resize out? Yeah, what are the sizes of? Okay, so with the resizing mask set, this is on the actual image scroll view itself. So we've just got the auto resize mask set here, and then on the actual image itself.
Which one of the 2 scroll views did you set resizing mask on?
This is on the inner one, on the actual page one. So now we rotate. Okay. So now the inner scroll view is scrolling out, the resizing mask is on the image as well, it's taking up the full size. So that's working well, but we've still got some weirdness happening there, and we've still got, when we rotate, this jumpiness as well. So for that, I've actually added a little bit of logging here in the callbacks when we do a rotation. We'll rotate to interface orientation and did rotate. And I'm logging out here the bounds and the content size and the actual content offset before the rotation occurs and after. And if we actually look at some of the results there.